All right. All right, we're going to start us off with a Merry Christmas review on iTunes. It's a thank you, and although I'm in the middle of a divorce from my is that?
Addict husband.
Oh, I am so blessed by each and every podcast. I am in recovery and probably will be for a long time, married 19 of 24 years and dealing with betrayal trauma in so many ways, but making progress for my daughter, and I'm super excited about my future.
Awesome.
I love that. Working on the me.
Moving forward. Okay. Oh my gosh. My spouse had an affair. My marriage is never going to be the same.
Ashlyn said that twice.
Did she?
Oh, well, and I got told that.
Yeah.
Your husband had an affair. You're crazy because your life, it will never be the same.
Yeah. So I got news for you. It won't be the same. It's going to be different. Yeah. So, I have two little girls, and, Frozen comes out, Tangled comes out, and we go to these movies, and it's fun, and they sing great songs and stuff. But my girls get this picture in their head of this castle on a hill and this knight in shining armor, or this prince who has a perfect singing voice, to come and sweep them away off into Neverland or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You get my point. It's embedded into us that life should be a certain way. And then all of a sudden your spouse has an affair, and all of that whole world comes crashing down. It's like, oh my gosh, my life is not how I envisioned it.
I didn't sign up for this.
My marriage, I didn't sign up for this in my marriage. And life's different now. Life is forever different after an affair. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, but it's different now. So you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah. I would say when the real truth of everything came out and we really said, okay, we're going to get help and we're going to start working on this rather than ignore it and pretend it didn't happen and just be mad. That's, I think, when it seemed impossible that it was ever going to be good, and how could it ever be better than what was? Because I really did think for so long, like, this is as good as it gets.
So when you first, so what you're saying, Ashlyn, is it wasn't necessarily the affair that like blew the world up. It was getting out of the denial around the affair and starting to face the pain of it, stepping into it. That was overwhelming.
Oh yeah,
maybe a little bit hopeless, scary.
Well, I've numbed out for 14 years of our today, celebrating 19 years of marriage. And so to numb out to all of that and be told, it's not that big a deal. People do way worse things, minimizing all of these things. I minimized, absolutely.
Right.
And I had no idea what I was feeling. So when it all came out, it was like, how am I ever going to not feel so heavy?
Right.
And to feel so much hurt and pain.
In that initial crisis, it's just so much. And it feels like, it kind of reminds me of this when we had our first baby. And we had her, we loved her, and it was the best experience ever. But it was also like, oh my gosh, we're never going to get sleep ever again. And we're just going to be changing poo forever. But then all of a sudden things change so rapidly. And one day leads to the next and the next, and progress starts being made, and things start to shift just piece by piece, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you don't feel that way.
No. And it got to be overwhelming. When we started, and we were like, okay, we're going to go to this class and this therapy session.
You were like gung-ho.
Very gung-ho, which, most of us do this, and it's great and wonderful. And then it gets to be like, therapy is my life, and I hate recovery,
yes.
And this is awful, and when can it stop?
Right.
And I do remember asking several times, when are we done?
Right.
So where's the end of the road? When do I have to stop paying to get fixed?
Right.
When do I start to feel trust again? When does this start to look like what I want?
Right.
And what I was not thinking would ever be, right? But now they're telling me it will be. So when will that be?
Right. So
give me the unicorn right now.
Yes. So give me the step by step. I want to climb to the top of this mountain, and I just want to be there. and then I have the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're good. But that's not how it went.
No, and unfortunately, everyone's story to recovery is so different because of our past histories and where we're at right now.
Right.
And so my story probably doesn't look like anyone else listening.
Right.
You know, you can probably relate to some things, but you don't know all of my story and some of the things that have brought into my marriage and things like that. So yeah, our story.
So we've talked a lot about your past marriage before the affairs. We break that down on the podcast all the time.
Yeah.
But what's the current marriage like, or what has it been like in the last 2 or 3 years as you guys have been bumping through recovery? How does that look? You guys are you're exalted now, right? You're perfect. Like,
oh my gosh! Really
yes. Did you not know that, Brian?
Oh well,
We're
every time you
changing the
come
name.
in, I just feel this radiating energy. So
We glow in person if you meet us.
Wow. Oh, but really, what is it really truly like?
I want to hear what you have to say, Ashley.
This reminds me of when a couple sits down on my couch for couples therapy. I'm like, "How you guys doing?" And they both shut up and they're like, "Yeah, you tell them." That's it.
Okay, so I would say I just haven't heard from you, so I wanted to go first. Our days are I'm very content, and when we check in each night, a lot of the emotions that are filled are content and peace and connected and love and loving, and these are the things that I never ever felt before at all. And so to end my day every day like that, some days there's also some harder emotions that are.
There's some discontentment,
yes,
right?
Yes, but there's still moments that we can grab. And we do have kind of an unconventional way of recovery because this is our job now,
right.
And we've made it that. And
right.
So it's not everyone's story at all, but the way that we begin our day and the way that we end our day is one of my favorites of our days because we're really routine, but that doesn't mean we're, I wouldn't say that, but Nazi about it. Like we're not crazy about
rigid.
it. We are not rigid,
right.
But we do know, like these are the things we do every morning.
You're consistent.
Very.
Right? So you're routine, you're consistent, but you're not like rigid Nazis about it.
Yes.
Okay.
So we give ourselves grace all the time.
Right.
But our kids know our routine. There's and we've never been routine in our marriage. And so it's been, Kobe and I both will say, like, we've never been good at anything, like, together. And, like, look at us. For years, we've been doing things really consistent. Like, we're really good at these things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're much more, and what you're talking about is your recovery capital. So together, you're bringing that to the table and you're consistent in doing those dailies, in living this way. So that's awesome. And what are some of the outcomes of that?
Discussions. We have lots of interesting conversations. So we're not always talking about recovery. That's work to us now. Okay. Right. So there's things obviously that we'll talk about. Hey, I see you're watching this movie, blah, blah, blah. That's recovery talk for us. But other stuff is work. And we're like, no work talk right now.
Yes.
Let's talk.
Right.
And I listened to this podcast or I saw this article and we're sharing things that are interesting and we're connecting in those
ways.
What to
know? You're having a relationship, right? It's not just centered around whether or not Kobe's looking at porn or not, right?
But Bren, we never did that before.
Right.
We really didn't. I mean, I think our intellectual knowledge was coming like, I saw this funny video on Facebook,
Right.
Which that's great and fine, but it's not growing me as an individual.
Right. You're having deeper connections and conversations now. There's more consistency. This is great. So I do want to say, I know I need to shut up and let Kobe talk a little bit here. We did an episode a few months back called "We're Getting Divorced," and we got some pushback, like, "What? You're getting divorced?" And then we talked about some really hard things that were currently and recently happening in your marriage, right? Mm-hmm. What you're describing, Ashlyn, sounds like a very healthy, wonderful, awesome relationship post-betrayal, right? Mm-hmm. With there's still the gunk, right? There's still the stuff, and there's always going to be. That's the nature of a relationship. So Toby, how's it been for you?
Well, I think it's interesting because I have after the new year now started some of my one-on-one calls again that I do, and talking with the guy today just said, "What do you think about 18?" He's like, "I'm glad to see you go." And I thought, "Well, it's funny, me too." but he said, "But I said, let's reflect though on some of the wins that you've had." And so we walked through the wins he had as a partner, the wins that he had as a parent, and some of the struggles that he had as well. But I guess what I would say is that in the last couple of years, what I would say is that one, I agree with everything you just said, Ashlyn. I think the predictability, like we're really consistent, but that fosters predictability, which helps remove the unknown, which is super, super important for us.
Right.
And super, super important for our girls. But in 18, let's just talk 18 alone. Our girls started EMDR therapy because of trauma they had when they were young. And they're still going.
Right.
And Lucy started, and then Ellie joined in, and now they're both going, which is like super rad. Because we're
financially.
it's like
$630 a month or something.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, just for the girls.
Yeah.
Then we had the big we're getting divorced thing, right? We moved into a new house, which was awesome.
Moving's always fun though.
I know, right? Right, but that's been actually a real bright spot the entire year. One, because of the reason for the move, which is to help get us out of the house that was really triggering for both the girls.
And for me.
Yes, totally. And for Ashlyn and for me, for all of us, it was the place we lived in was pretty balls. But what I'm saying is that there's been a lot of challenges. I was diagnosed with anxiety in August. Is that what it was? Ish, give or take. And I'm still trying to figure out what's the right cocktail of meds for me. But I'm also doing neurofeedback, and I'm still doing therapy to try to sort through all of this. So there's been challenges, there's totally been challenges that we've had to face. But at the same time, we have the ability now, we have the skill set to work through those challenges in a much more efficient and a much more effective way. And we, even in those hard moments, have been able to extend empathy to each other and be there by each other's side. And that's had a really great effect on our girls. For example, we say one of the things that we started, that we just kind of like adopted in our family when we started recovery was, "I love you no matter what," right? And so we've really worked hard with our girls to foster that truth. Like we really will love you no matter what. And Ellie had a play date, and there's some things that went down, and Ellie's like, her friend's like, "Yeah, just don't tell your friends about that." And he's like, "I tell my dad everything." And so as soon as the girl left, she came and was like, "Hey Dad, I got to talk to you." She bumped his head and told me. I was like, "I love you." Like, I didn't care about that.
Right.
I love that you came and told me. Then yesterday, Ashlyn was walking home from school with Ellie, and she's a redhead, and Ellie said to Ashlyn,
I saw my grades at school, and Mom, I said a swear word. And I'm like, "Oh no, Ellie." And she said, "I already asked Jesus for forgiveness." But it was just a really cute conversation.
Oh my God. Oh, dang it.
I said, and of course I was like, "Ashlyn, what swear did she say?" "I don't know, I didn't ask her." So what was the first thing that I aed her when she got home?
Toby wants to know.
"You swore at your grades. What'd you say?" And she's like spelling it out to me, and it's like, "I'll say it." And then Lucy had to know, and of course we end up all laughing.
Right,
Now
that's
everyone knows.
Yeah.
Now everybody knows. But the point is that those are some really big wins. I never, ever had the safety with my parents that my kids have with me. And I want to be super clear. Just because we're like 4 years into recovery or whatever it is, doesn't mean that I'm always safe. What it means is more times than not, I'm safe for my kids.
Right.
Well, I would even say that your relationship as a father has absolutely changed.
Yeah,
You
totally.
showed up.
Yeah.
You were checking boxes, but in recovery, you're here and you're present and you're connected and you care and you listen. And that's a very different father.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we talk about recovery being a skill set. No question that it is, but it's enriched many areas in life and many roles in life that we have. And I think that's had a positive effect upon, obviously in our immediate family, but also I think in our extended family. So I think we have,
Well, and
our
let's
relationships
go,
have
let's go
enriched
beyond. It's
because of
had a positive effect on, I think, on the world. It's had a positive effect on the people that you work with individually, the people that listen to this podcast. You waking up and exercising together might seem like such a minuscule whatever thing,
Mhm.
right? But doing that consistently over time and making recovery a priority is really affecting a lot of people. And like Ashton said earlier, everybody's relationship post betrayal isn't going to look like this.
Yeah.
But you guys are a great example of a relationship that has grown and developed and become awesome after betrayal. And that is possible for anybody. What I see is after something hard, you go through something hard together. And if you're willing to grow through it, that you still have your peaks and your valleys.
Yeah.
Your valleys are going to be not so deep, and your peaks are going to be higher. And it's awesome because as you go down toward that valley, it's like we know how to work through this, and we know how to actually turn this into a positive and connect together and grow together through this. And as I'm hearing you guys talk, I'm just thinking about my own life and the way you talk about your girls. And life is short. Those girls are going to be in your house for not very much longer.
Oh my gosh.
And even our marriage, like I turned 40 this year, and I'm going to be 40. I'm only going to be this young and active with my wife and be able to experience things with her like this right now for not very long. And life's too short to stay stuck in misery and disconnection and shame and all the stuff we talk about. Get in recovery, darn it. Like, do it. It's the best.
It's way easier. I remember saying this a long time ago, and I think someone just sent an email or a message citing it, and I haven't thought about it in a very long time, but it is so much easier to lean into the discomfort of recovery and to internally grow than it ever was to sit in and suffer through addiction.
Keep up the secrecy in life.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I think that the growth part of it for sure. I'm just a huge believer that there's no way you can acquire the skills that recovery demands without acquiring the characteristics and the qualities and the traits. And man, the confidence that comes from that is rad. I'm such the normal dad who, leaves the seat up and I hear Lucy, Dad, put the toilet seat down. And I'm like, so normal. But part of me being normal is having the confidence again. Well, not again, the confidence for the first time in my life that I'd never experienced before. And that is such a sweet thing because I know who I am and I know what skills I possess. And living those is like nothing else.
Right.
And I think both of us found ourselves in our 30s when recovery started because we did start focusing on ourselves and our own healing and finding who we are and what we value. And it's been a cool process because we still like each other, right?
Absolutely.
We found each other and we've changed, but we've changed and we like each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now I gotta say, Ashton and Kobe are awesome. And I'm talking to you guys and saying this about you in front of you. It's a little awkward.
Keep going though.
You guys are amazing. And I work with a lot of couples, and I see recovery in their way, and it's beautiful, and they grow together. And the reason why I'm saying this is Ashton and Kobe aren't unicorns. You're not mythical creatures that, you're human beings. And I've seen other human beings do what you guys are doing. Create love after betrayal. Create intimacy after addiction.
In their own way.
Yeah, and they're awesome. Those couples are powerful, and they're changing their worlds around them, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think that's the beauty of recovery. One of the many beauties of recovery is it's like a recovery story for a couple, for an individual, because not everybody stays together. But being able to recover is just as different for that person as every sunrise and sunset is that we get to watch every day. It's so different, and it needs to be different. It must be different because it must be their own and their own journey. And
Well,
guys,
you make a good point too, in that I have several clients who ended up divorced, and they were in their 30s actually, and they went through this rapid growth and this hard thing. But man, they were courageous and they were boundaried and they were honest and they got that recovery capital and they are thriving after divorce. And
that's so cool.
they're doing awesome and they're creating love around them as well. So
it's a beautiful thing. Super looking for, and I honestly never thought we'd have it. I never ever thought I would have it. Never.
you must have believed that you would, or you wouldn't have.
No. I super hoped that I would.
You must have believed it some because you created it, Toby. You did it. Right?
Well,
you've
it's
arrived.
You've
arrived, Toby.
Actually, that's the cool thing, right? Is that there's we don't view this recovery thing as like this destination. That sounds pretty cliche. You know what I mean?
But it's
like,
true.
But it's just this path that we're on, and I take it at my own pace, and I don't hustle or hurry that for anyone, and especially including Ashlyn. This is mine. This recovery.
It's interesting because there's so many great things about living in our marriage now, at year 19. And there's also, it's funny that things still pop up that I'll say, okay, this feels a lot like
the old
Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
This is addict behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do with addiction. But just recently, your anxiety, some of the behaviors that happen because he goes within himself. Right. He feels a lot of confusion and all these things. And so me being able to just tell him, and we talk about it in a very healthy and calm way, and he understands and he hears me, and we're okay. Yeah, that is so different.
That is different, right? But it doesn't mean that your past goes away and those triggers don't come up sometimes.
And something we would never expect. I wouldn't say, okay, I know going into the rest of our marriage that if he does this, it's going to trigger me.
Right.
These are unknowns, and there are things that are popping up that we've never experienced.
Right.
And that's the thing that recovery really gives is that's a skill set to put myself in Ashlyn's shoes and to see and feel what she experiences is empathy. And it make for instance, when you said that, like, my gosh, you're a different person. Like, you're going within yourself like you did. And it's true. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why on the green earth am I spinning? I was at Costco the other night waiting on a prescription, looking at the books, and I about burst into tears. And I don't know why. But I was having an anxiety attack.
Right.
And the point is that recovery's taught me where otherwise I would have thrown it in her face and gaslit Ashlyn up one side and the other. Recovery's taught me to say, just see it from her place. And like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. It makes total sense why you're saying that, why you're feeling that. And I don't blame you. Like, those are the conversations that we have, and it makes sense. And it's not, Ashlyn's not accusing me.
Right.
She's just saying, oh, this looks like. I'm like, yeah, it kind of does.
The opposite of addiction is connection. So with those things, instead of disconnecting with the friction, you actually start to connect more consistently.
For sure. Well, that's I don't know. That's the episode. Anything else we want to touch on, Ashlyn?
No. Hallelujah for marriage not being the same after.
Amen. It isn't.
All that.
And it can be so much better.
So much better. So keep hanging on, keep going, be consistent, and just keep moving forward.
All right. See you guys.
Peace out. You both got that I did say, and the